I still remember the way that ballroom glittered that night, gold chandeliers like floating constellations, marble floors shining so bright you could see your own hesitation reflected back at you. Funny thing is, people assume grand places make you feel special. But sometimes they just remind you of where you stand or where others think you should stand. My name is Lena Parker, and for 3 years, I worked as a nanny for the Whitford family, one of the wealthiest Black dynasties in New York. But no one at that gala knew that. Not yet. All they saw was a Black woman in a simple dress, clutching her purse nervously, trying not to stare at the towering ice sculptures or the women dripping in diamonds. I kept telling myself I belonged there because Mrs. Whitford had insisted I attend as a guest while they traveled abroad. "Dress up, Lena. Enjoy yourself. You earned this," she told me with that warm smile of hers. They treated me like family, loved me like it too. But that night, surrounded by billionaires and celebrities who smelled like money and power, I felt more like a trespasser than ever. And then she noticed me. Vivienne Astor Whitford, the billionaire wife, America's beloved philanthropist. The woman whose face lit up magazine covers like she was born to look down at the world from glossy pages. She didn't recognize me. We had met only briefly months ago, and tonight she saw something she didn't like. Me, a Black woman alone. Not dressed in couture, not wearing diamonds, not escorted by anyone powerful enough to matter. She approached with a champagne glass in hand, eyes sharp as a blade. "Well, aren't you a bit far from the staff doors?" Her voice was silk, but it cut like cold steel. The people around her chuckled softly, pretending not to stare at me like a stain on their perfect evening. I forced a smile. "I'm here as a guest." Her eyebrow arched, slow, disbelieving, almost amused. "A guest." She repeated it like the word tasted sour. "No name tag, no uniform. Ah, let me guess, you're the nanny from that Whitford household, aren't you?" My throat tightened. She said it loudly, loud enough for heads to turn, loud enough to brand me. I swallowed hard. "Yes, I work with the Whitfords." She laughed, actually laughed. "Oh, sweetie, staff use the entrance in the back. You can wait there for pickup when the children arrive. This event is a charity gala, very exclusive. We have standards." Each word burned. My cheeks went hot. People stared, whispered, some even smirked like they were enjoying my slow humiliation. I wanted to shrink into the floor. "I was invited," I repeated, softer this time, like I was asking permission to exist. Vivienne stepped closer, towering in heels that probably cost more than my car. "No, darling, you delivered. Let's not pretend you are anything but help." My heartbeat thudded painfully. I could feel every insecurity rising, all the years I learned to make myself small, polite, invisible. She gestured lazily at a server passing by. "This one seems lost. Maybe escort her back to where she belongs." The server hesitated, a young man with kind eyes, but he looked afraid to challenge her. His hand hovered near my arm, and that's when something broke inside me, not loudly, not visibly, more like a quiet snap, the kind that changes you forever. I pulled my arm away gently. "With respect, Mrs. Whitford invited me personally," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. Vivienne tilted her head, eyes narrowing. "Oh, honey, you think she cares about you? The woman cycles through nannies like handbags. You are paid help. You don't attend galas, you serve people who attend." Her words echoed, humiliating, degrading, each syllable carving deeper. The room watched like it was entertainment. I stood there frozen, ashamed, furious, and small, until a voice behind us cut through the room like thunder. "Is that so, Vivienne?" Every head turned. And there she was, Margaret Whitford, arriving earlier than anyone expected. Her silver gown shimmered. Her gaze was calm but dangerous, like a storm disguised as still water. Vivienne paled. Mrs. Whitford walked straight to me, placing an arm around my shoulder like I was carved from gold. "Funny," she said, smiling without warmth, Because the woman you just insulted is not only a guest, she is practically family. Gasps rolled through the room. Vivienne's lips parted, but no words came. Mrs. Whitford continued, voice steady and proud. Lena isn't the help. She saved my child's life, and if anyone here deserves respect tonight, it is her. Silence fell so heavy you could feel it, but this was just the beginning. Because what no one knew yet, not even Vivienne, was that this story would end with her downfall, with truths spilling out like broken diamonds across marble floors, and with me standing at the center of it all. Not as a nanny, but as heir to the fortune she tried to make me feel unworthy of. Tonight, humiliation was only chapter 1. The real shock was still waiting in the dark. The string quartet played on, pretending nothing had happened, yet the entire room seemed to breathe differently, slower, heavier, like even the chandeliers leaned in to listen. I felt Margaret's hand rest firmly on my shoulder, warm, protective. It was the kind of touch that said you're safe, even when your heart refused to believe it. Vivienne tried to recover her smile, but it trembled at the edges. Oh, Margaret, darling, I was simply ensuring your staff was comfortable. Misunderstandings happen in busy rooms. You know how these events can be. Her voice turned honey sweet, but there was venom underneath. People like her mastered the art of cruelty wrapped in charm. Margaret's expression didn't soften. Indeed, she replied, her voice sharp as cut crystal. Misunderstandings like assuming you can speak down to someone you know nothing about. A few guests lowered their eyes, suddenly fascinated by their champagne. Margaret turned to me gently. Come, Lena. You sit with me tonight. My stomach twisted. I wanted to smile, to feel pride, but humiliation still clung to me like wet clothes. Instead of feeling elevated by her defense, I felt exposed. Like a child being pulled away from bullies while everyone watched. People whispered as we walked across the hall. Their gazes were blades I could feel slicing into my back. Walking beside Margaret, I should have felt important, but I felt small, like I didn't deserve her hand. Like I was an imposter wearing borrowed elegance. We reached the front table, the seat reserved for the Whitford family. Men in tailored suits nodded respectfully. Women in designer gowns glanced at me with unreadable eyes. Margaret pulled out a chair for me herself. A billionaire pulling out a chair for her nanny. If humiliation stung, this moment confused me even more. The crowd didn't know how to process it. Some faces tightened with jealousy, others with shock. Vivienne stood frozen across the room, a statue with a cracked smile. A server appeared with 2 glasses of wine. Ms. Whitford, shall I bring the 1972 for the lady as well? He asked politely. Margaret looked at me first, as if my answer mattered. Yes, I whispered. She nodded to the server. 2 glasses. It should have felt like victory, but victory didn't feel like this. My chest was tight, my hands trembled. My voice still lived in my throat where Vivienne's words had buried it. You are help, you don't belong, know your place. The whispers replayed like an echo trapped inside me. Margaret noticed. You're shaking, she said softly, not out of judgment but concern. I forced a laugh, brittle as thin ice. I'm fine, really. She gave me a look, the kind a mother gives when she knows you're lying but won't press you. Lena, she said, her voice lowering to something intimate, my son adores you, and so do we. You've been loyal, kind, and present when life demanded too much of us. Don't let a broken woman make you question your worth. Her words hit deeper than Vivienne's ever could. My eyes burned. God, embarrassment, gratitude, hurt, all tangled into something I couldn't speak. I inhaled through it. Thank you was all I could manage. And for a moment, I felt found. But peace at a gala is like fragile glass, beautiful, but one wrong touch and it shatters. During dinner, a host announced the arrival of someone late to join the table. His footsteps approached behind me, confident, unhurried. Then a voice, warm, playful, slid through my memory like summer. Well, if it isn't the woman who convinced my daughter carrots are magical. My breath caught. Daniel Whitford, the Whitfords' only son. 29, charming, brilliant, the type of man magazines call America's most eligible without irony. And the man I quietly loved for 2 years. Not openly, not boldly. In the kind of way you love the sun from the shade, admiring it, knowing you could never stand too close. He sat beside me, so near I could smell cedar and something dark and clean, like expensive cologne made just for him. Daniel smiled, eyes bright beneath soft curls. "Lena, I didn't know you'd be here," he said, voice warm, familiar, like home. Mrs. Whitford invited me." My voice sounded too small. "She did right," he replied without hesitation. "You make every room better." Heat rushed to my cheeks. God, why did he have to say things like that? Vivienne watched us from across the hall, jaw tight, eyes narrowed. Her humiliation had turned into something uglier, resentment. Daniel leaned closer, voice soft enough only I could hear. "I'm glad you're here. I've been wanting to talk." My heart flipped. Talk? About what? Before I could ask, he straightened as the auctioneer stepped onto the stage. "Ladies and gentlemen, we begin tonight's charity auction benefiting minority youth in technology," applause echoed. And my place in the room changed again. As the bidding began, numbers flying like glitter in the air, I watched wealth move effortlessly. Millions like pocket change. Daniel bid. Margaret bid. People raised paddles as casually as asking for more napkins. I stayed still, invisible again. Until Vivienne lifted her paddle dramatically. 1 million, she said, eyes locked on me like a challenge, whispers rippled. The auctioneer's voice boomed. Going once, another paddle lifted, not Daniel's. Mine. I didn't know I was raising it until I saw it above my shaking hand, like my body moved ahead of my mind. The whole room went silent. My heart slammed against my ribs. Oh God, what had I done? I couldn't bid 1 million. I didn't have 100th of that. Vivienne smirked, slow, satisfied. "Poor thing," she said sweetly, loud enough for tables to hear. "She must think it's a raffle." The room laughed, not loudly, but enough. Heat flooded my face. Shame swallowed me whole. I lowered my paddle slowly, like sinking under water without air. But before humiliation could drown me, another paddle rose beside mine. Daniel S. 2 million, gasps. Margaret's eyes glowed with something proud, protective. Vivienne's smile cracked like thin glass. Daniel turned to me. "Since you raised your paddle first, Lena, the donation is in your honor." I stared at him, breath lost. He winked like rescuing me wasn't a burden but a gift. The auctioneer slammed the gavel. "Sold $2 million under Lena Parker's dedication," applause thundered. Spotlights swung. Cameras flashed. Vivienne's fury seethed in silence, a storm brewing. I should have felt triumphant. Instead, I felt the pressure of 1,000 eyes, some admiring, some mocking, some calculating. And beneath all that spotlight, I was still just the nanny. A nanny drowning in rooms built for rulers. Hours later, after speeches and laughter filled the air again, I slipped out to the balcony for fresh breath. The night was cold, sharp wind kissing my skin like truth. City lights glittered beneath us like scattered dreams. I closed my eyes. The humiliation, the kindness, the confusion, it all came rushing back at once. I leaned on the railing and exhaled deep. That's when the door opened behind me. He stepped out, Daniel. He stood beside me, hands in pockets, gaze on the city below. "You looked like you needed space," he said gently. I did. Silence, comfortable, not strange. Then he spoke the words that would change everything. "Lena, why did you really raise the paddle?" I swallowed. Truth trembled inside me. I don't know, maybe I wanted to prove something. Maybe I was tired of feeling less. He nodded slowly, understanding more than I said. "You are not less," he whispered. His voice was so close it felt like a touch. I turned toward him, and for the first time our eyes held like neither wanted to look away. He stepped closer. Just an inch, but it felt like crossing a line. Then his voice low, "You matter to us, to me." My heart thundered so loud I swear the city heard it. But before I could speak, before I could ask what to me meant, the balcony door flung open again. Vivienne. Her expression was cold now, no smile left to hide the poison. "Well, isn't this cozy?" she said, stepping toward us. "A nanny and a Whitford man under moonlight. How predictable." Daniel's jaw tightened. "Vivienne, not tonight." But she wasn't listening. She walked close, too close, eyes on me like I was prey. I warned Margaret letting staff mingle with family would end in embarrassment. Her voice dripped like acid. Then she leaned into Daniel. "You think flirting with charity cases makes you noble? She's beneath you. You can dress dirt in silk, but it's still dirt." A blade, sharp, precise, and aimed to kill. My chest shattered. Breath gone, words gone, Daniel's voice roared, "Vivienne, enough." But she wasn't done. She looked right at me and whispered, only for me, "You'll never be more than the help." Her breath smelled like champagne and cruelty, and she walked away with a slow smile, leaving my heart sliced open. Daniel reached for my hand, but I stepped back. I need to go," I whispered, and fled inside. The gala sparkled, music swelling, but I could barely breathe through the pain twisting inside. I found a quiet corner, hidden behind velvet curtains, and sank down, trying not to cry. People laughed nearby, toasted, danced, and I sat alone, invisible again, broken by words I'd learned to swallow my whole life. "You will never be enough." I pressed my palms to my face, shaking, not knowing that this humiliation, this moment of quiet collapse, was planting the seed of a future none of them saw coming. A future where I would stand on that same stage, not as nanny, not as help, but as a woman whose name the whole room would whisper with awe. Because the story wasn't about my fall. It was the beginning of my rise. And soon, very soon, the entire world would know who I truly was. I didn't go home that night. At least, not right away. Instead, I took the long way out of the hotel ballroom, past portraits of men who built skylines and women whose pearls could pay off mortgages. The air smelled like roses and money, a scent I still wasn't sure I belonged inside. The lobby was quieter, the kind of quiet that wraps itself around you like a heavy coat. I walked slowly, heels clicking against marble, trying to steady my breath. I could still feel Vivienne's words like fingerprints around my throat. Dirt in silk. Help. Beneath them. She didn't even know me. She didn't know my story. But she believed she did because of my skin, my job, my dress. Funny how people can decorate their cruelty with class and call it etiquette. I pushed through the revolving doors and stepped into the cold New York night. A blast of wind slapped tears right out of my eyes. I wrapped my shawl tighter around me, but nothing shielded me from the sting in my chest. I tried calling a cab, but every car that passed was hailed by someone richer, louder, more visible. I stood there like an extra in someone else's movie. Just when I lifted my hand again, headlights stopped in front of me. Daniel. He stepped out of the back seat without a coat, just a suit that the wind tugged at like an angry child. "Lena!" His voice chased me before his feet did. I froze. Half of me wanted to run. The other half wanted to collapse into his arms and let the world fall away. "I thought you left," I murmured. He shook his head. "You vanished." I was worried. His concern was too real, too soft. It made something inside me tremble. "I just needed air," I whispered. Daniel stepped closer, his breath visible in the cold. "You didn't deserve what she said. Vivienne was out of line." "Maybe she's right," I said before I could swallow the weakness. "Maybe I don't belong there." His eyes flashed anger, not at me, but for me. "You belong anywhere you choose to stand." My throat tightened. He always knew how to say the words I never believed for myself. "Daniel," I began, but stopped. I didn't know what came after his name. A confession, a boundary, a plea. Instead, I exhaled and forced a small smile. "It's late, I should go home." He hesitated. "Let me drive you." I'm okay, I lied again. But he stepped aside, opened the car door, and spoke firmly. Lena, get in. Not demanding, but protective, grounding. I wanted to refuse for pride's sake. I wanted to prove I could walk away strong. But strength isn't always walking alone. Sometimes it's allowing someone to guide you out of the dark. I slid into the seat. As we drove, the city lights streaked across the windows like blurred memories. He didn't speak. Neither did I. Silence became a kind of understanding. When we reached my apartment, I unfastened my belt slowly, not wanting to leave yet, ridiculous as it was. He leaned on the steering wheel, watching me gently. Tomorrow, he said, let's talk properly, without champagne or cruel socialites interrupting. I nodded. Okay. I stepped out, hesitating with the door open. Daniel? Yeah, thank you for everything. He smiled, small, sincere. You don't need to thank me for seeing your worth. I closed the door before he could see the tears forming again. Not tears of pain, but something unfamiliar. Hope. Weeks before the gala, flashback, I met the Whitfords on accident. I wasn't a nanny then, not yet. I was a nursing student working night shifts at St. Catherine's Hospital. Exhausted, broke, holding onto dreams like loose thread. One night, a car crash flooded the ER with chaos. Among the victims was a 5-year-old girl with a teddy bear sewn to her dress by tiny pink ribbon, a little girl named Ellie Whitford. She was scared, bleeding, calling for her mother in a shaking whisper. Nurses rushed, doctors shouted, but I knelt beside her and held her hand. I told her to breathe with me. We counted stars we'd never seen. She calmed. She trusted. And when her parents arrived, frantic, terrified, Ellie pointed at me and said with a trembling smile, "She helped me be brave." Margaret hugged me like I was family. Daniel shook my hand with gratitude that felt too large for a stranger. Weeks later, they offered me a position as Ellie's nanny so she had someone gentle after the trauma. It wasn't just a job, it was purpose. Ellie became my sunshine. Her brother, Marcus, became my shadow, quiet but deeply attached. Margaret became my mentor. Even Mr. Whitford, distant but respectful, treated me with dignity. And Daniel, he became something else entirely. He would come home from business trips and find me painting rainbows with Ellie on the kitchen floor. Other nannies stayed in the background. I sat cross-legged with the children, sang to them, healed with them. Daniel watched sometimes, leaning against the doorway, smiling like he'd never seen warmth before. One evening, he found me crying softly after a rough day. Instead of walking past like wealthy people often do, he sat beside me on the stairs and handed me a mug of tea. "No one takes care of the caretaker," he murmured. And from that night, conversations became laughter. Laughter became comfort. Comfort became longing. But I buried my feelings deep, deep enough I hoped they'd never surface. Because love between worlds like ours wasn't a fairy tale. It was disaster waiting for an audience. Back to present, days after the gala, the humiliation didn't fade overnight. It clung to me every time I looked in the mirror. Every time I stepped inside the mansion again, the marble floors felt colder. The portraits of ancestors who built empires watched me differently, or maybe I only thought they did. Margaret hugged me warmly when she saw me. "Lena, my dear, ignore Vivienne. That woman is as insecure as she is wealthy." I smiled weakly. "I'm trying." But insecurity is a stain that water can't wash. Ellie tugged on my sleeve, eyes sparkling. "Miss Lena, come build a pillow castle." I knelt to hug her tight. She smelled like shampoo and innocence. Children see heart, not status. Sometimes that's the only truth that matters. Later, Daniel appeared in the hallway. Corporate sharp in a navy suit, adorable with hair slightly messy. "Can we talk now?" he asked. I nodded, pulse quickening. We stepped into the study. Heavy books. Warm leather scent. A crackling fireplace painting us gold. He stood across from me, both of us unsure what line we were about to cross. "About the gala," he began, rubbing the back of his neck. I'm sorry, I should have intervened sooner. I hate that she hurt you. You defended me, I reminded softly. He looked at me deeply, like words lived behind his eyes. I would defend you again, always. My heart stumbled. Daniel, we can't. He stepped closer, slow, voice low. Who told you we can't? It's not realistic, I whispered. You're you and you're Lena, he cut in firm. Brave, compassionate, brilliant Lena, the woman who held my sister's hand when she was too broken to trust anyone. He moved another step. I felt the heat of him too close. Daniel, he reached up gently to brush a curl from my forehead, my breath caught. Tell me you don't feel it. His voice was barely more than air. This connection, this pull between us, I should have walked away. But instead, the truth spilled from me like something that had been waiting too long. I do. He exhaled like he'd been holding that breath for years. His hand rested on my cheek, tender. We were inches from something dangerous. Then the door opened. Vivienne's reflection in the glass before I heard her heels. She froze, we froze, then her lips curved into a slow, wicked smile. Interesting, she crooned. Very interesting. Daniel stepped back like hit with reality. Vivienne's voice sliced the room. A nanny kissing a Whitford son? Oh, the tabloids will feast. She turned, ready to unleash hell. Vivienne, Daniel warned, but she was already walking out, venom trailing behind her. Daniel swore under his breath. This is going to get ugly. My stomach dropped. He looked at me, apologetic, worried, still wanting. I'll handle it, he promised. But some promises were too small for storms this big. Vivienne didn't just dislike me, she wanted me gone. And she wasn't going to stop at humiliation this time. She was going for destruction. I didn't know it yet, but the war had begun. Between a billionaire wife with a reputation to protect and the black woman she tried to keep beneath her heel. One thing she didn't realize, I wasn't alone, and I wasn't powerless. Because the Whitfords had secrets, deep ones, buried beneath gold and legacy. And soon, one of those secrets would surface because of me. A secret tied to my past. A secret tied to my blood. A secret that would flip the whole world upside down. The humiliation was only phase one. Next came power, and the woman she called help would become the woman she would kneel to. For a few days, everything at the Whitford mansion felt like walking across glass, beautiful, sparkling, and one wrong step away from blood. Vivienne pretended the gala incident was forgotten, but her eyes followed me like a shadow with teeth. She arrived often now, unannounced, uninvited. Claiming she needed to discuss charity agendas with the family, though everyone knew charity wasn't in her nature. Control was. One morning, while I braided Ellie's hair for school, Margaret entered the playroom with tension stiff in her shoulders. Vivienne will be joining us for breakfast, she said carefully. Ellie groaned. Why, she's mean. I brushed her curls gently. She's family, sweetheart. Family doesn't make people cry, Ellie argued with childish wisdom that hit like truth. Margaret's eyes softened at me with apology, as if she knew what today might bring. The dining hall was a palace of morning light, polished wood, fresh flowers, silverware glinting like armor, but my stomach was tight as I entered. Vivienne sat already, flawless in a white suit, pearls glowing like moonlight woven into her skin. She smiled sweetly when she saw me, a wolf in silk. Lena, she purred, sit with us, please. It sounded polite, but the air bent around it like danger. I sat beside Ellie while Daniel sat across, jaw tense, sleeves rolled, hair still damp from a rushed shower. He kept glancing at me, protective, guilty, wanting. Vivienne noticed. Of course she did. Daniel, she said casually, I spoke with some board members last night. They were curious about your relationship with your nanny. The room froze. My spoon slipped slightly in my hand. Daniel's voice was low, warning. Vivienne, don't do this. Oh, darling, I'm just clarifying. We must protect the family's reputation. Her eyes made a slow, slicing turn toward me. After all, we wouldn't want rumors to start. Rumors about impropriety, or about staff trying to climb above their station. Margaret's hand slammed her teacup down. Vivienne, enough! Vivienne blinked, innocent mask cracking for a second. Margaret, surely you can't be blind to how this looks. A nanny flirting with the air, sitting at galas, bidding at auctions. Raising her paddle like she could afford even the napkins. Her tone was sugar dipped in arsenic. Heat burned my throat. I didn't flirt, I began, but she cut me off. Oh dear, you don't have to defend yourself. Ambition is natural. A pause, a dagger disguised as sympathy. Though reaching beyond one's world often leads to embarrassment. Ellie slammed her small fist onto the table. Stop being mean to Miss Lena. Vivienne stiffened, caught off guard. Margaret's voice was cold steel. Vivienne, step outside with me. Vivienne rose, eyes still locked on me like a challenge. As she left with Margaret, she whispered near my ear, soft, lethal, "You won't last here, I promise you." The door closed, and silence collapsed around us. I realized I was shaking. Daniel reached across, covering my hand with his, warm, steady, the only solid thing in the room. "I won't let her hurt you," he said. I swallowed. "But she already is." He leaned forward, voice low. "Then we fight back, together." It sounded brave, but I knew Vivienne didn't throw words, she threw war, and she was only warming up. Everything began small enough to be doubted. One morning, Mrs. Whitford's favorite vase mysteriously shattered. Vivienne sighed dramatically, eyed me, and said, "Accidents happen with untrained hands." Another day, Ellie's medication instructions were suddenly misplaced, though I knew exactly where I left them. Vivienne found them later tucked into my coat pocket. Coincidence, she called it. A setup, I felt it. I told no one because when a powerful woman plays victim, truth becomes fragile. But then came the moment no one could ignore. I arrived one morning to the mansion gates surrounded by cameras, flashes like lightning striking my skin. Reporters yelled my name. "Lena, are the rumors true? Are you dating Daniel Whitford? Are you pregnant with the Whitford heir?" My blood turned to ice. Pregnant? My phone vibrated, dozens of notifications, missed calls, unknown numbers. Daniel burst through the front door. "Lena," he reached me, shielding me from microphones. "Don't listen, come inside." I stumbled behind him, heart racing. Inside, Margaret sat pale, a glossy magazine spread open on the table. On the cover, The Billionaire's Son and the Black Nanny Secret Affair. And below it in bold, "Baby on the way." My knees weakened. I wasn't pregnant. Daniel and I hadn't even kissed. This was Vivienne, calculated, cruel, hungry for my ruin. Margaret's face trembled with fury. "Who leaked this?" she demanded. Daniel spoke like thunder. "Vivienne." "But how do we prove it?" Margaret whispered. And here was the part that twisted my stomach, because Vivienne thought she was safe behind wealth and reputation. But Margaret knew something darker, something I wasn't supposed to hear. Margaret closed the magazine slowly, eyes distant, haunted. "Vivienne has leverage over this family," she murmured. "She's been blackmailing someone. That's why she thinks she can control us." Blackmail, the word hit like lightning splitting a tree. Daniel stepped forward. "Mother, it's time we stop protecting her. Lena is being torn apart publicly." Margaret hesitated. Pain flickered across her face. "She has information that could destroy everything," she whispered. "What information?" I asked quietly. Margaret's eyes lifted to me, and suddenly the room felt too still. Her expression was not just sad, it was apologetic. "Lena," she said slowly, voice trembling, "there's something you do know, something about you." My heartbeat stumbled. "About me?" She nodded, hand reaching for mine. "I didn't bring you into this home by accident." The world tilted, air thickened. "I recognized you when I saw you at the hospital. I recognized your eyes." My stomach dropped to my feet. "What are you saying?" Her voice broke into a whisper. "You're not just Ellie's nanny." Silence swallowed everything, even time. "Your family, Lena." My lungs forgot how to work. What? Margaret took a breath that shook. You are the daughter of the man my husband loved before me. Everything blurred, the room spun like a carousel. Daniel froze, shock painted across his face. You're saying, he whispered. She is your sister, Margaret finished softly. The world crashed in one silent explosion. I felt like glass shattered in slow motion. Sister, family, heir. Vivienne's words echoed like cruel irony, help, dirt in silk, beneath them. But the truth was something she never imagined. I wasn't beneath her, I was blood. And this family's fortune, the empire she guarded so violently, belonged to me by lineage. Yet shock wasn't the only thing in the room. Another truth breathed between me and Daniel like fire barely contained. If I was family, then what were we? What was this connection we pretended not to feel? Forbidden, broken, collapsed under a new reality. Daniel took a step back like gravity reversed beneath him. His eyes held mine, longing, conflict, devastation. Margaret spoke again, voice weak. My husband wanted to tell the world years ago, but if it came out, it could ruin the name. Vivienne discovered the secret somehow. She's been using it ever since to keep her place secure. I stared at her, voice cracking. And you kept this from me? Tears welled in her eyes. To protect you, to protect the family. But now, she has crossed a line I can't forgive. The room was silent except for the sound of my heart tearing. Everything I thought I knew about my life, my place, my worth, uprooted. Daniel finally spoke, voice raw, "We'll fix this together." But there was doubt under his strength, because love had become complicated, because blood changed everything. Margaret took my hand again. You have a right to be here, Lena, more than Vivienne ever has. I breathed shakily. For the first time, I didn't feel small. I felt dangerous. The humiliation she fed me was now fuel. Vivienne wanted war. She had no idea she'd been fighting a Whitford all along. And this time, I wouldn't stand in the shadows. This time, I would rise, not as Nanny, not as staff, but as the hidden daughter of the Whitford legacy. And when Vivienne discovered what I truly was, her fall would be spectacular. I stayed in the guest room that night, staring at the ceiling while flashes of the gala replayed like broken film reels in my mind. Eleanor's voice, that sharp, entitled tone, echoed through me. People like her should know their place. Black help should be grateful. Every time I blinked, I heard it again. But now the world had heard it too. By morning, everything had changed. I walked downstairs, still in pajama pants, hoping to sneak into the kitchen for coffee before anyone noticed me, but the moment I stepped into the hallway, every servant went quiet. Heads turned. Eyes widened. Respect. Not pity, respect. It felt strange, uncomfortable even, like wearing a beautiful dress I didn't feel worthy of yet. Martha was the first to approach me, her voice low and warm. "Morning, Ms. Manika, or should I say Professor?" She winked. I almost laughed. "Monique is fine, please." But she shook her head gently. "No, you earned your title. Don't shrink from it again." Her words filled a hollow space inside me I didn't realize was empty. At the table, Ethan sat sipping coffee, his laptop open, eyes heavy with sleeplessness. His gaze lifted when he saw me, a mixture of guilt, awe, and something softer, deeper. "You're trending worldwide," he said without drama, passing me the tablet. There it was, a video of the gala with over 18 million views, comments flooding like waves. She spoke Latin. "The billionaire's wife is done. Never judge a book by its cover. That professor is a queen. Black excellence on full display." My heart raced, a swirl of pride and dread, because under those comments were threats, insults, racism, ugly as sin. I wasn't just exposed, I was public now. Ethan watched my reaction quietly. "I know this is overwhelming." I nodded. "It is." He leaned forward, elbows on knees. "What really hurts you most right now?" I breathed shakily. "That I let her make me feel small when I've spent years trying to stand tall." He looked at me like he finally saw every part of me. You are tall, Monique, taller than anyone in that room. Even a leaner knows it now. I swallowed, emotional pressure behind my chest. But what about you? I asked carefully. She's still your wife. He looked away, jaw tightening. Not for long. Silence, heavy loaded. He slid a document toward me, the prenup. Signed, final, dated for separation proceedings. I made my decision the night she humiliated you, he said. Not because of the video, because I saw the truth. I blinked. The truth. That she lost her humanity and you never did. The words broke something inside me. A tear slipped and Ethan gently wiped it with his thumb. It lingered on my cheek longer than it should have, too intimate, too dangerous. We both felt that line. He stood quickly, clearing his throat. There's a board meeting today, PR disaster, accusations, it's a mess. And what do you need from me? I asked. His answer shocked me. Come with me. I stared. To the boardroom? Ethan, I'm the nanny. The scandal. You are the most composed person in this entire situation, he cut in. And the smartest. I exhaled. Long, slow. I didn't want to be in the spotlight, not like this. But maybe life doesn't wait for permission, maybe it pushes you even when you tremble. I nodded. Okay. We arrived in a black car through a private entrance. Security guarded the elevator like we were carrying nuclear codes. Inside the boardroom sat 12 powerful executives, stiff suits, icy expressions, some curious, some disapproving, some hostile. I felt their eyes question why a black woman walked in beside the CEO. Ethan spoke first. We're here to address the statement released this morning, he announced, voice firm. And there it was, a large display screen reading. Social media outrage after CEO's wife seen mocking nanny, company under fire. One board member scoffed. Why is she here? His emphasis was knife sharp. I felt my pulse in my ears. Ethan didn't even look at him, because she deserves a voice. Another man crossed his arms. We need damage control, a statement, an apology, and that video wiped. Wiped, my throat tightened. He continued coldly, or we risk a stock crash. Sometimes sacrifices must be made. Sacrifices? I realized he meant me. Erase the video, erase the humiliation, erase my existence in that narrative. A hollow anger rose from my stomach, slow, simmering. I stood, every eye followed. My voice came steady despite shaking fingers. I am not a PR disaster. I am a person. A woman who loved this family, who raised their child when his mother couldn't be bothered to look up from her champagne. A couple gasped, one coughed uncomfortably. And you want to erase it? I stepped closer. With all due respect, gentlemen, maybe the problem isn't the scandal. Maybe it's that the world saw the truth. Silence. Thick as smoke. Ethan watched me, eyes proud, protective. I continued, voice trembling with emotion rather than fear. I didn't ask for attention. I didn't ask to go viral. I just stood my ground when someone tried to crush my dignity. And I won't apologize for that. My hands gripped the edge of the table. If you erase the video, you erase every black woman who's ever been talked down to. You erase resilience. You erase progress. My breath hitched. And you erase me. One woman at the table, the only female board member, leaned forward. Let her finish. Something shifted in the room. Not loud, not dramatic, but real. I felt it. Strength. When the meeting ended, the board voted to issue a public apology, not from me, from Alina and the foundation she chaired. Ethan insisted. They agreed, because they no longer saw me as a nanny, but a force. As we left the building, cameras swarmed outside like hornets, reporters yelling questions, flashes exploding. I froze. Ethan touched my hand, warm, grounding. Are you okay? He murmured. My voice shook. I don't know. He squeezed gently. You will be, I'm with you. And for the first time since becoming a nanny, I believed him. That night I returned home to find Grace sitting on the staircase, still in pajamas, clutching a drawing. She ran to me, slamming into my legs with force. I saw you on TV. she squealed. You were brave, like a superhero. Mommy was wrong and Daddy said so, and everyone knows now. My heart cracked. In her small hands was a crayon drawing, stick figure me wearing a cape. I knelt, hugging her tight, emotions bursting in my throat. I'm not a superhero, baby, she pulled back innocently. Then why does it feel like you saved us? Saved them? God, if only she knew how much I needed saving myself. But peace never lasts long. Because the next morning, everything detonated. A black SUV screeched into the driveway, door slammed. Heels clicked like bullets on marble floors. Eleanor was back, her face twisted, mascara smeared from tears, jaw clenched like stone, her voice a storm. You think you won, little Nanny? She stepped closer, too close, breath hot with fury. You humiliated me, you destroyed my name, and now you want to take my family too? My heart hammered. Grace peeked from the hallway, frightened. I straightened. I didn't destroy you, Eleanor, you destroyed yourself. She slapped me. A sharp crack echoed. Grace screamed. My face burned, but I didn't step back. Not this time. Eleanor hissed, eyes wild. I'll never let you replace me. Replace? Oh, she didn't even know the storm she had unleashed. Because what happened next changed everything forever. Her handprint burned across my cheek, but the fire inside me was brighter. Grace sobbed from the stairs, tiny fingers pressed over her mouth. Ethan appeared at the top landing, eyes blazing the moment he saw the red mark on my face. Eleanor, what did you just do? His voice wasn't loud. It was deadly calm. She turned to him wild-eyed, hair a chaotic halo, the image of a queen toppled from her throne. She deserves worse, she screamed. She turned you against me. She wants my life. My voice, when it came, surprised even me, gentle but carved from steel. I never wanted your life, Eleanor. I only wanted respect. But she wasn't listening. Her rage was an avalanche, unstoppable. You think you're better because you have degrees and fancy words. You're nothing, you came from nowhere. I walked past her slowly until our eyes met, inches apart. No, I whispered. I came from fire, and I learned to walk through it. Ethan descended the stairs, papers in hand. I tried to protect the marriage for Grace, he said, voice tight with grief. But after last night and now this, he set the documents on the foyer table. It's over. Eleanor stared at the papers like they were venom. Then she noticed the cameras outside through the glass pane of the door, dozens reporting live, waiting, and she made a mistake. She grabbed the door and stormed out, still screaming. The press swarmed. Microphones shoved forward. Flashlights burst like lightning. And she yelled loud enough for the world to hear. He replaced me with the nanny, a black nanny. Silence fell, not soft, but heavy, electric. Cameras caught every syllable. Live, it was over for her, right there, on her own tongue. The divorce hearing was public. Journalists filled rows. Social media live-streamed every second. Eleanor arrived pale, drained, wearing sunglasses big enough to hide behind. When the judge asked her to speak, she stood, but her voice trembled. I was wrong, she said, lips quivering. My words were cruel, racist, inexcusable. I allowed jealousy to rot me, and I hurt a woman who cared for my daughter more tenderly than I ever did. She inhaled shakily. Monique, I'm sorry. My throat tightened, not with forgiveness, but understanding. Some apologies don't heal. They acknowledge. The judge granted Ethan majority custody. Eleanor kept visitation rights, but only with supervision until emotional stability proved. Her empire, her image, shattered, and the world moved on. Offers flooded my inbox, universities inviting me to lecture, publishers asking for book deals, podcasts, interviews, panels on race, dignity, and voice. But the one that made me cry hardest was from Brown University, the same institution that once rejected me for lack of diversity contribution potential. Life has a strange humor. I accepted a visiting professorship part-time, still lived in the same house during transition, but no longer as the nanny. As a consultant, an educator, a voice. Grace still ran into my arms every morning like nothing changed, because love doesn't change with titles. One evening, I tucked her into bed. She held my hand tight. "Are you leaving forever?" she whispered. "No, baby, I'll be around, maybe not every day, but you'll always have me." She looked up, eyes too wise for 5 years old. "Daddy smiles more when you're here, I smile more too." My heart ached sweet and painful. "We all smile more when we feel safe," I told her. After Grace slept, Ethan found me alone on the balcony, city lights glowing below us. He handed me a cup of tea, chamomile, my favorite. I never told him that. He noticed. "Thank you," I whispered. The wind carried a quiet that begged truth. He looked at me not like employer, not like scandal, like a man seeing a woman clearly for the first time. "You changed us," he said softly. "You taught my daughter kindness. You reminded me what integrity looks like. You faced cruelty with grace I didn't deserve." His voice cracked. "I don't know what you feel for me. I won't ask anything of you, but I hope one day, when the wounds aren't fresh, you'll consider a life where we build something new, as equals." My breath froze. Not a fairy tale confession, not a cinematic kiss, a possibility, an open door. I stepped closer enough for him to feel hope, not entitlement. My fingers brushed his lightly. "Maybe one day," I said, "but right now I need to build myself for me." He nodded respectfully. "And I'll be here," he said, voice warm, "cheering you on, proudly." I stood on stage at a sold-out auditorium, thousands watching, millions streaming, giving a talk titled, "Dignity Doesn't Beg, It Stands." When I finished, applause rose like thunder. Somewhere in the crowd, I saw Ethan and Grace both smiling, both standing. And after the talk, Grace ran up, tooth missing, hair in pigtails. "Aunt Monique, look what I drew." She held a picture, this time more detailed, me standing at a podium. Crowd clapping, her and Ethan beside me. All three of us holding hands. I knelt, tears filling my eyes. "You think I'm a superhero again?" I asked. She shook her head with that innocent grin. "No, you're better, you're real. Real, not perfect, not rescued. A woman who was belittled, humiliated, broken open, and still stood back up taller." I hugged her tight. Ethan walked closer, hands in pockets, eyes gentle. "Dinner to celebrate?" he asked. I smiled, a real yes blooming where old wounds once lived. "Dinner," I nodded. "As friends for now." He smiled back, faith in his eyes, not pressure. And as we walked toward the exit together, flashes from cameras lit our path, but this time I didn't flinch, because I wasn't hiding anymore. I was the black nanny. I was the scandal. I was the help. I was Monique Carter, scholar, survivor, woman unbroken, and the world would remember my name.